Welcome to the Crack House Chronicles, your favorite true crime podcast. I am Donnie, and with me in the studio today is a man who doesn't have all the answers, but he'll let you know he has all the questions. It's Dale.
I don't even know what the hell to say about that. Every time I come up with a question, you change the answers.
Do I really?
Yeah. If I get an answer, you change the questions.
Yeah.
So I don't even know anymore.
Well, you just make up a question and I'll give you a fake answer.
All right, that'll work.
Yeah.
What's going on with you?
Same old, same old.
Same old, same old.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Yeah, Dale never knows what I'm going to say about him, so, I mean, it really is.
That was blindside.
It is what it is.
I was like trying to calculate that shit. What the hell's going on here?
But yeah, just sitting here in the studio ready to record a podcast, man.
That's right, man. I'm good to go.
I am too. I'm having a good day. Going to have a good episode today.
I think so.
Yeah, I've been really excited about this one.
Yeah, well, we don't be usually dropping no clunkers, so they're all good, man.
Oh, they are all good. You got any shout-outs, bud?
I do have one. We'd like to give Danielle Hall a shout-out. She gave us a big-time 5-star.
5-star.
5-star. 5-star. Okay, that's enough. Gave us a 5-star Apple podcast review, and we really appreciate that. She said, great show, love listening while I'm at work, and man, we really appreciate you taking the time to do that for us. It means a lot.
Thank you a bunch, Danielle. If anybody else wants to be like Danielle, go to Apple Podcast and leave a rate and review. Yep. Please do, and we will give you a shout out.
That's right. Remember, write something in the box.
You got to write something in the box. Write a review.
I mean, you don't have to as far as giving us a 5-star, but if you want us to know about it, you have to. Otherwise, it'd just be another number.
Yeah, it just shows up, and we don't.
Yeah, we don't mind those. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, we love it.
But we like to give you a little recognition.
Yep, and I want to give another shout out to a fairly new Facebook follower, friend of our show now.
Friend of the show.
David James. He is a cop. He is retired from several places. He is currently in Bessemer City with the police department there, doing some work, fine work, helping solve some cases. And we've had a little bit of conversation with him, and he's going to help us out on a few cases and be a good reference for us to lean on when we need some advice on some stuff and find out some stuff for us.
We always need some kind of advice.
We do, man. We need some advice on something.
All the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And you'll have the questions for him.
Yeah, I definitely sure ain't got no answers.
No. Hopefully he'll have the answers.
Yeah, there you go. We'll get it all worked out now.
He's actually he's checked a couple cases for us right now. And,
oh, cool.
Yeah, trying to find some information for him. So we like to have a good friend like that.
It is nice to have a resource here.
Very much so.
Yeah. I think yesterday was the last day to buy anything if you want to get it for Christmas. So, yeah.
But yeah, you can still go to the store page and order any time.
Yeah, still might come through.
Yeah.
Yeah, but oh well.
Get something off the store page.
Their Christmas dreams have been shattered. Sorry. Yeah. We do got some new stickers though.
We do have some new stickers.
They're killer too.
Yeah, they're glossy.
Glossy.
Yeah.
What is that glossy?
It's shiny, slicky.
That's a shiny house.
Yep, they're very cool stickers.
Very cool.
Yep. All right, bud, we're going to get started, man.
Let's do it, man.
This might be a little bit longer episode, but...
Not really.
Well, we're going to see. But
we're getting out of North Carolina this week.
Yeah, sure. We're going... We are going to the North Pole.
North Pole, baby.
Yeah, this is our Christmas episode, but not.
You're right.
Yeah, we're in the North Pole, but not the North Pole. We are in the city of North Pole, Alaska.
That's pretty damn close, ain't it?
Yeah, it's up there, but just a little bit of background on the city of North Pole. It is about 1,700 miles south of, like, the geological North Pole.
Okay, so maybe it ain't so close.
No. But now, get this. The people there that live in the city of North Pole, they take full advantage of this town's moniker.
Well, I'm sure they named it that for a reason, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. And the streets, Santa Claus Lane, Kris Kringle Avenue.
Well.
Yeah, so they take full advantage of it.
Well, I don't blame them.
And the town's biggest attraction is a large gift shop named the Santa Claus House.
Well, how original.
Yep, and it also has the world's largest fiberglass statue of Santa.
I wonder how big it is.
I don't know.
You didn't look it up?
I hadn't looked it up, but I'm going to take the word for it.
Okay.
On my research. Now, the city of North Pole sits south of Fairbanks, Alaska.
Right.
And it stretches between Fort Wainwright and the Eielson Air Force Base, and between the Chena and Tanana rivers. Now, our story that we're talking about today, Dale, takes place in the late 70s and early 80s. And this is when there were some murders that shattered this little town of North Pole.
Right above Moose Creek, huh?
Yeah, right in that area around Fairbanks.
I think that's a cool name.
Yeah.
Moose Creek.
That is a cool name. Now, the first person that was murdered there in our story that we're talking about is a lady by the name of Glenda Soderman. Now, she was 19 years old, and she vanished from her home there in North Pole on August the 29th of 1979. Now, Glenda, she was a newlywed, and she was the daughter of an Alaskan state trooper.
Yeah, she's only 19, I think.
Yes, and her husband had a small baby. And according to her husband, when he arrived home on August the 29th, the baby was in the crib.
Right.
But Glenda was nowhere to be found.
Yeah, no sign of her at all.
Now, by all accounts, Glenda was happy and had no reason to run away or leave.
Right.
But
there's no evidence of foul play, I don't think, either, right?
No, And the following October, Glenda's decomposed body was found in a gravel pit near Moose Creek on the Richardson Highway. And it was not far from the Eielson Air Force Base and 22 miles south of Fairbanks. And Glenda had been shot in the face, and troopers found a .38 caliber pistol cartridge near her body. And the medical examiner discovered no evidence of that Glenda had been sexually assaulted.
Right.
And suspicion quickly fell on Glenda's new husband.
Yeah, no, even though they couldn't see no evidence of a sexual assault, they did see she had been strangled.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Glenda's husband, he took a lie detector test and failed it.
Yeah, don't take them.
No. And even Glenda's father, who was the Alaskan state trooper, suspected his son-in-law of this crime. But the troopers found no evidence to arrest him for this. I mean...
Man, that'd suck.
Yeah. Now, on June 11th of 1980, an 11-year-old little girl named Doris Oring...
So this is like almost a year later.
Yes. Her and her older brother Thomas, they were riding their bicycles on the roads in North Pole, Alaska. And Doris, she was getting ahead of her brother a little bit. When her brother caught up with her, he saw her talking to a man in a blue car.
Yeah.
And he was outside of his car with the hood raised.
Right.
And what he described is that the man was having some engine problems. And when Doris's brother Thomas pulled up alongside Doris, the man quickly shut the hood and left.
Yeah.
Jumped in the car and left.
If he was having engine problems, he must have got that fixed there real quick. Huh?
He must have. Now, 2 days later, Doris had disappeared, and her bicycle was found hidden in the bushes along Badger Road near her home there in North Pole. And there was a witness reported seeing a small blue car tear around the corner in an intersection near Badger Road.
Yeah.
And the driver seemed to be a little preoccupied and looked like he was messing with something in the seat next to him.
Yeah.
And the police believe the attacker hid in the bushes on the side of the road and waited for Doris to ride her bike past his little hiding spot.
Right, and then jump out and grab her off the bike.
Yep. And once she got close, he just grabbed her.
Yeah, grab the bike and throw it in the ditch and throw her in the car and roll.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which definitely could have happened. That could have been what they were wrestling around the front seat with.
Now, because Doris's brother thought the man he had seen talking to his sister might be wearing a Air Force uniform, because you got the Eielson Air Force Base right near there.
Correct.
And because the other witnesses described the driver of the speeding car as having a military-style haircut.
Yeah. And then her brother actually gave a good description to the police sketch artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he told the police that the man had a blue shirt. It looked like it was an Air Force uniform. So this is what they're going on at the moment, on this possibly being a military man.
Now, you think really it makes a lot of sense for a guy if he was going to be doing this to actually wear his uniform out while he's doing it?
Man, I've seen all kinds of weird stuff.
Yeah. Of course, I guess if basically this was a military town, I'm sure there were tons of military people around, so maybe it would kind of blend in really there. Think about it.
Now, the state troopers, they asked security at Eielson Air Force Base for a list of blue cars registered to drive on the base.
Right.
And the Air Force handed the troopers a list of 550 names of people who own registered vehicles, possibly matching the rough description of the car the troopers had provided them.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And investigators were desperate to find Doris, but with no fingerprints or other forensic evidence, they didn't know where to go. They didn't know where to start.
Well, and then they get all this, and it's all by hand. There's no computer just to go through it and split it out. And just take all these names and go through them every one by hand.
Yep. Now, since the troopers hadn't cleared Glenda's husband, he was a suspect in her murder, they decided to question him about the abduction of Doris Oring.
Man, that would suck.
Yeah. And they gave him another polygraph test.
Mm-hmm.
And this time the polygraph examiner found the test results inconclusive.
The dreaded inconclusive.
Yeah. So it was either he passed or he didn't pass. They wasn't sure.
Mm-hmm.
And the test results frustrated the troopers, man. They had no physical evidence pointing to Glenda's husband.
Right.
But he could not pass the lie detector test when questioned about the murder of his wife or the abduction of young Doris Oring. So now the troopers, they decided to bring in a polygraph expert to question Glenda's husband. And after 10 minutes, the expert left the examination room and told the troopers that Glenda's husband had an irregular heartbeat.
Now, he's in the Air Force, right?
He's a military man, yeah.
Yeah.
So this heartbeat, they said, could never produce a passing polygraph test result.
So it's basically a heart murmur.
Yeah, that's what they described it as.
Yeah.
And the test results from an individual with a heartbeat like his would always be classified as inconclusive or failing. And since the troopers had no reason other than his lie detector test to suspect him, they dismissed him as a suspect.
Well, yeah, they ain't got nothing on him. They're just trying to pin it on him, I think.
They're just trying to find anything they can, I guess.
Yeah, this poor guy's lost his wife, and he's trying to raise this young baby by himself and keeps getting accused of everything.
And his father-in-law thinks he's done it.
Yeah.
Everything, man.
So you wonder why they wouldn't have found that murmur, like a military physical,
You'd think, I asked you about that.
Yeah. So I was pondering that.
You'd think that they would
have already known that.
Went through a rigorous test to have a physical.
And I'm not a doctor, and I just wonder if the first two guys, how did they not catch it? I guess it's just something they don't look for. I
don't know. It's that.
I don't really know how a lie detector test works. Besides, I'm not taking one.
Yeah,
they strap you up and it's check your heartbeat and all this stuff. But
check your blood pressure and your heartbeat and your temperature and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And notice there's any changes in those things when you're answering questions.
You're supposed to put a tack in your shoe and smash on the shoe every time you answer.
Yeah.
Or something. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know how it works.
I think I saw it on Get Smart or something.
Okay, that's what we're going with. All right, now on January the 31st, a little over 7 months after someone had kidnapped Doris, 20-year-old Marlene Peters disappeared. Now, I think Marlene was an indigenous woman there in Alaska.
Yep.
Now, Marlene was last seen trying to hitch a ride from Fairbanks to Anchorage.
Crazy.
To visit her father, who was sick with cancer.
Yeah, she thought he was going to pass away, so she was trying to get there hitchhiking in January.
It's like a 6-hour ride.
Yeah.
Now, police considered Marlene's disappearance suspicious, but they had no way to know if someone had abducted her near Fairbanks or if she disappeared somewhere else between Fairbanks and Anchorage.
Or the dreaded, she probably ran away.
Yeah. Now, troopers did not immediately link her case to Doris Oring or Glenda.
Man, that's just crazy because, we're checking into this stuff and, how cold it gets up there. If she would have got a ride like partial way and then had to get out and then couldn't get another ride, she basically would freeze to death.
Yeah.
That's a long way.
Well, it's something me and you'd learn, too, that in this area, they sort of look out after each other.
Yes.
They, if you see somebody out like that, it's so cold, you give them a ride.
Yeah, it said that one of the things we heard that you're taught at a young age up there, if you see anybody in distress or needing help, you stop and help them.
Yeah.
Because they could freeze to death in just a matter of, time.
Yeah.
So, we're just kind of playing in the favor of some other people this way, but
you get somebody in your car, you can do what you want to with them.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's an easy trap, if you got a heater and they're freezing, they're getting in.
Yeah. 5 months after Marlene disappeared, 16-year-old Wendy Wilson vanished. And Wendy was last seen hitchhiking, and a witness saw her climb into the white pickup truck in Moose Creek near Fairbanks.
Yeah, her and one of her friends was actually walking, and they were going to go to her Wendy's boyfriends, and the other girl decided she wasn't going, so they
Parted
decided
ways.
to go different ways, and then said it wasn't no time at all. She turned around and seen that she was already talking to a guy in the truck.
And got in the truck. She saw her get in the truck.
Yes.
Now, 3 days after she disappeared, Wendy's body was found near Johnson Road, 32 miles south of Fairbanks, near the Trans-Alaskan Pipeline. And Wendy's killer had strangled her and then shot her in the face with a shotgun.
Yeah, with a shotgun this time.
Yes. Crazy, man.
Yeah.
Now, 9 weeks after the discovery of Wendy's body, Marlene Peters' remains were found. This is the indigenous woman trying to make her way to Anchorage.
See her dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her remains were found, and Marlene had also been dumped near Johnson Road, and she was found only 2 miles from where Wendy had been dumped
Also shot in the face with a shotgun.
and strangled. That's just overkill, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now, 2 days after police recovered Marlene Peters' body, they were notified of a disappearance of a 19-year-old female named Lori King. Now, Lori had been seen walking in Fairbanks, and the Fairbanks police and the Alaska State Troopers now knew they had a serial killer operating near North Pole, Alaska,
Right.
and just outside of Fairbanks. And the media was dubbing these string of murders as the Fairbanks serial murders. And then they later called them the North Pole murders.
Yeah, because it was actually closer to there.
Yeah. Now, police as well as civilian and military volunteers searched for Doris Orring and Lori King's body near the Johnson Road area where the remains of Wendy Wilson and Marlene Peters had been discovered. But they had no sign of either of them. Yeah, nothing. Now, on September the 2nd of 1981, 4 airmen on a hunting trip came across the remains of Lori King in a wooded area near a missile site off Johnson Road.
That's a good place to be hunting.
Yeah.
Missile site.
Yeah. Now, earlier searches had somehow missed this area, and the killer had done nothing to hide Lori's body. Like Wendy and Marlene, Lori had been strangled and then shot in the face with a shotgun.
Man, this dude's M.O. is crazy.
Yeah. But they didn't find any signs of sexual assault on these women.
No.
Mm-mm.
Just to strangle and then shoot him in the face.
Yeah. Now, because Lori's body was found on federal reservation, the FBI joined in on this case, and the task force was formed consisting of FBI agents, Alaska State Troopers, the Eielson Air Force Base Office of Special Investigations, and the Army's Criminal Investigation Division from nearby Fort Wainwright at Fairbanks Police Department. Now, investigators knew they were hunting a serial killer, Dale, and somehow convincing girls and young women to climb in their car.
He's like, hey, look, I got a heater.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. He was getting off on this.
Yeah. Now, to get a better understanding of what was going on, Alaska State Trooper investigator, his name was Sam Bernard. They flew him to Atlanta, Georgia, where a joint federal and state task force were searching for a serial killer who was murdering young black men. This was the Atlanta child murderers.
Right.
Yeah. And Bernard, he got in on this, and he was learning how the Atlanta task force used computer technology to manage and organize the leads and cases.
Right.
And this is when Bernard also flew to the Behavioral Sciences Division in Quantico, Virginia, and he met with experts there to form a profile of the serial killer operating up near the North Pole.
So they're doing pretty good here.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out some stuff.
Because, you got to realize, computers were just coming in, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, they were around, but they really didn't have,
They definitely weren't linked.
there were no databases you could check.
Right. That's why I said before, they had to go through all those cars by hand. All 550 pages or whatever it was.
Yeah. Now, at the time when Bernard consulted with the Behavioral Sciences Division, they had a success rate of 85% for creating accurate profiles of unknown serial killers.
Right.
That's pretty dang good.
Sound like mine hunters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the psychologists in the unit must have seemed like wizards but not humans or machines to Bernard, man. I mean, they had all this information they could give him to find out what was going on in the North Pole.
Right.
Now, the profilers told Bernard that the North Pole serial killer was probably single and lived alone. And they believed that he had a hard time holding a job, and even though Doris Orring's brother stated that the man he had seen talking to her wore an Air Force uniform, experts said they believed the murderer was civilian. Now, Bernard returned to Alaska with unknown killer's profile. This is what he got from the FBI, and task force members believed they now had something solid to go on.
Right, at least somewhere to start.
Yeah. Now, there was another trooper named Jim McCann and trooper Chris Stockard. They undertook this massive task of organizing and entering 2.5 years worth of information on this serial killer. Stockard, who had computer training, developed a program to cross-reference the items in the database, and they were prioritizing valuable leads and suspects.
Yeah, when they got back, they actually built a computer specifically for this.
And they hired people to enter the information.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're like, we got to catch up here.
Now, after Lori King was murdered on May 16th of 1981, the abductions and murders stopped. And 1.5 years later, in November of 1982, the task force concluded that the murderer was either dead, in prison, in the hospital, or had
moved out of the area.
Yeah, gone. And the task force decided they need to look at military people who had transferred from Eielson Air Force Base.
That's pretty smart.
Yes, very smart. You know, they weren't taking the advice of the FBI because they said it was a civilian.
Yeah.
So they were looking at military men.
Right.
Because this area, man, it is military.
Right. Packed full.
Yeah. And they began scouring the records of recent transfers from Eielson Air Force Base. And they also contacted police agencies near other U.S. Air Force bases around the world. And they asked them to be on the lookout for any similar murders to the ones they had near the North Pole.
Yeah, I'm sure, especially if they're thinking this is a serial guy, and then that's basically his
M.O.
quote signature. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then that's definitely a pretty one that would stand out.
Yeah. Now, the list of transferred Air Force personnel included the name of a guy named Thomas Richard Bunday.
Bunday.
Bunday, like Sunday, but Bunday.
With a B, yeah.
Now, Bunday had transferred to Shepherd Air Force Base near Wichita Falls, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And his transfer happened on September the 9th of 1981.
Which was just a week after the hunters had found the body of Lori King.
Ain't that weird?
Yeah.
Now, the Wichita Falls police reported they had recently investigated a murder similar to the one that occurred near Fairbanks, but police in Texas believed the woman there had been killed by a drug dealer who was now dead.
Yeah, thought it was a meth guy who got blowed up in a damn meth lab.
Yeah, that's what they were thinking.
Yeah.
But he was already dead. But the task force noted that Bunday's resemblance to the drawing made from the Doris Oring brother description was similar to Bunday.
Mm.
Yeah. And also Doris Oring's brother Thomas had picked out Bunday in a photo lineup.
Yep.
And also...
He didn't have no trouble picking out his car either.
No, he picked him out right away.
Yeah.
And troopers believe Bunday's Alaska neighbors and co-workers painted an unflattering picture of him, man. They described him as an unlikable loner and had a variety of shotguns, pistols.
Yeah, and he had a lot of trouble with female co-workers as well.
Yeah, he would be kind of sexual in nature toward them. He would make rude remarks and things like that.
He had a lot of complaints.
Yes. Now, just a little bit of background on Thomas Richard Bunday. He was born on September the 28th of 1948 in Nashville, Tennessee. And he was the younger of two kids in the family. He had an older brother named Ralph, and he was 15 years older than him.
Wow.
So I'd imagine Thomas was a bonus child.
Yeah.
And I'd say he was
one slid in.
Yeah. But his father was a World War II veteran. He suffered from a lot of mental disorders and was aggressive toward his wife and his kids.
Yeah, aggressive meaning beat on them pretty bad.
Yeah. Bundy was also unpopular at school too, but he was a good student. He was sociable, and he had a few friends and acquaintances, which helped develop his positive outlook.
Yeah.
But after graduating high school in 1966, he married his high school sweetheart,
Mm-hmm.
and in 1967 joined the United States Air Force, where he achieved the rank of technical sergeant. And in the late 1960s and early 70s, Bundy was serving in Southeast Asia, and during this time, his wife was messing around on him.
You can say that.
She had a child by another man.
Yes.
Now, despite this, he continued to live with his wife.
Yeah, he kind of accepted it.
Yeah, and they had a daughter together.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this extramarital affair strained their relationship.
You think?
Yeah. And in the 1970s, Bundy was sent to further his service at the Eielson Air Force Base in Alaska. And during this time, he began to show signs of emotional burnout and started visiting a psychotherapist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is, having a troubled childhood and wife messing around on you and having a kid by another man. I think that's going to...
Did eat at you a little bit.
It's going to put a toll on you, dude.
Yeah.
Now, in January of 1983, Trooper Sam Bernard, this is the trooper that went to Atlanta to study under the FBI there, for the child murders, the Atlanta child murders.
With Wayne Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He flew to Shepherd Air Force Base there in Texas and interviewed Richard Bundy. Now, while Bundy agreed to answer Bernard's questions, he refused to take a lie detector test.
Right.
And he refused to allow them to search his home or even give any kind of samples of his hair.
Well, the thing was, they flew down, and then it was kind of like, we say, it's like when it's not official, because they just had a hotel room, and they wanted him to come over and talk to him.
Yeah, they just want to interview him.
Right, so it's like an unofficial interview.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's like, sure. And I think what he was thinking is, I'll go talk to them, at least I'll find out what they know, and then I don't have to tell them nothing.
Yeah, because what had happened, they had got the information that of somebody transferring there, and it was a murder like that, the ones they were having, the one that was...
The one they thought was done by the meth lab guy.
Yeah.
But it was also a strangling and shooting in the face.
Yeah, but the Texas authorities there, they were thinking it was the meth guy.
Right.
That had done the murder.
Right.
But this Sam Bernard, he wasn't so convinced of that.
No.
He thought his man was still alive. And when Bernard told Bundy that Doris's brother had identified him in a photo, he didn't respond.
No.
Mm-mm.
He didn't really tell him nothing.
No. And Bernard returned to Fairbanks and said he didn't believe they had enough evidence against Bundy. And since Bundy didn't fit into the FBI profile, he felt they should investigate other suspects. And most of the task force felt Bundy was their man, and they believed it was time to take a closer look at him, Dale.
Yeah.
But, I guess, you get the FBI giving you a profile, what are you supposed to do?
Right.
I mean, these guys are experts.
Yep.
But I guess you have to...
Well, it was still a fledgling program, too, though. So, they were good, and they had a very good track record, but, I don't know about experts.
Yeah.
They developed it, so I guess they had to be the expert.
I guess. Now, on March the 7th of 1983, Trooper McCann and Stockard, they flew to Texas again, where they met with the Texas State and Federal Police, as well as the Air Force Office of Special Investigations. And they decided to place a loose surveillance on Thomas Bundy.
Yeah.
Now, McCann and Stockard, they rented 2 rooms at a local motel.
Right.
I guess to make it their little local headquarters. And then asked Richard Bundy to stop by.
Yes.
So they could talk to him. And he willingly talked to him.
Sure, I'll go.
He showed up and had a conversation with them for several hours over 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, and they had those 2 rooms. They were adjoining rooms. And said when you walk in, they had maps and photos and all stuff all over the wall to make it look like they were about to close in on their man and all kind of stuff like that. Kind of like you see on Criminal Minds. Yeah.
Yeah, playing it up.
They're trying to play him up, and see what kind of rise they could get out of him.
Yeah.
But he was too smart for that.
Yeah. Now, at one point, Bundy made sort of a strange comment that he said he had trouble with girls while he was in Alaska. Yeah.
I'm sure he did.
Yeah. Now, McCann and Stockard, they invited Bundy to come back the following day, so they continued their conversation, and Bundy agreed.
Yeah, okay.
And they said he would even show up early sometimes on these days.
I think, like I said, I think he wanted to know what they knew, too.
Yeah, I think so.
Just to see how close they were, and then he was probably kind of getting off on hearing it again, too. Plus, seeing the photos and those maps and stuff was probably really scratching his itch.
Yeah. Now, they told Bundy that they knew he killed women in Alaska, and they knew how and when he had killed them.
Yeah, all they wanted to know was why. Just tell us why.
Yeah.
But he didn't play that game either.
And they told him they also knew he'd killed a woman in Texas.
Right.
And they knew he was guilty. And they told him he would either spend the rest of his life in prison in Alaska or in a cell in Texas. Because Alaska doesn't have the death penalty.
Right.
But Texas has the death penalty.
And a lot of heat. So you can either stay here in the heat till you die, or you can go to Alaska.
So you weigh it out.
Yeah.
But Bundy didn't say too much.
No.
And by the end of the 4-hour interview, he began to cry.
Well, I think what they did is they started telling him that Doris's family really wanted to have her back and wanted to know where she was, and this is the 11-year-old girl. And, you know, it was like she had a big family and she wanted them back, and they wanted to give her a proper burial and, you know, put her to rest, and I think that's when he started to cry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it was hitting him pretty hard.
Hitting him in the feels.
Yeah. Now, Bundy returned to the motel the following day for another meeting.
Yep.
But this time it was different.
Yeah.
He didn't stay.
He didn't stay.
Instead, he handed the troopers a note.
Mm-hmm.
And this note was pretty much saying that he was denying he had murdered women in Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the following day, Trooper McCann and Stockard, an FBI agent, a representative from Wichita Falls District Attorney's Office, and Shepherd's OSI observers presented the Bundys with a search warrant for their home.
Yes.
And they spent about 12 hours
Going through everything.
searching his home and vehicles.
Right.
And they found ammunition that was similar to the ammunition used in the Alaska murders.
Like 16-gauge shotgun shells.
Yeah, and they found some newspaper clippings, Dale.
Yep.
And these were clippings about the Alaska murders.
Right.
And they looked at him, they looked at him and said, "Oh, that's just a souvenir that I brought back from my time in Alaska."
Reminds me of Fairbanks.
Remember, but it just happened to be about the murders.
Just happened to be.
Yeah. And sort of chuckled it off.
And then they also found like some surveillance style photos of young girls.
Yeah, which ain't weird at all.
No, not at all.
But now, after they finished up their search of his home, Bundy agreed to meet with them the next morning about 9 a.m.
Right. And after these guys left, you know, from cleaning up with the search warrants and stuff, Bundy realized that he didn't have his keys. So
His car keys.
Yeah, he couldn't find his car keys anywhere. So he called McCann and asked him if they had taken them by mistake. And he said that he actually had, and he was sorry. Now, I believe it's bull. I believe he did it on purpose because it's a pretty smart move, really. But anyway, he's like, "Yeah, I did. I'm sorry, and I'll bring them right back to you now." And he goes, "No, don't worry about it." Said that I'll just get them. I'm coming back in the morning for another meeting, so I'll just pick them up then.
Yeah.
So they make sure they was going to get to see him one more time anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Bundy agreed to meet with them at 9 o'clock the following morning.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, he showed up at their motel room at 8 a.m., an hour early, catching them off guard. And Bundy confessed to murdering 5 women in Alaska, including Doris Oring.
Must have been thinking about that.
Yeah. Whose body had still not been found, Dale.
Yeah.
And he told troopers he had discarded Doris's body in a remote section of the Allison Air Force Base.
Right.
Now, at this time, Trooper McCann and Trooper Stockard, they felt a little helpless, dude.
Yeah. Yes, very much so.
They had no authority to arrest anybody in Texas.
Right.
And the Texas police needed a warrant to arrest somebody for crimes committed in Alaska.
You know, and plus, like we said, this is another kind of unofficial, official interview. So it's like, I mean, what do we do? He confessed, but we really can't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bundy told the troopers he would voluntarily return to Alaska with them.
Mm-hmm. And show her where the body was.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he would do it without a warrant for his arrest and everything. They couldn't restrain Bundy.
No.
So what had happened, they had were granted a private plane.
Well, they were going to fly him out, but there was no direct flights, and the only flight had a layover in Seattle. And with them having no authority, they were worried if they took that one and they got to Seattle that he would change his mind and leave then, you know, because they didn't have no authority to stop him if he wanted to.
Yeah.
So they didn't know what to do, and that's when the governor of Alaska said, "Well, we just get you a private plane and fly you straight back."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was very smart. That way he wouldn't have a chance to change his mind.
Yeah, it was good for him to pony up and pay for that too, you know.
Mm-hmm. Now, the following day, the troopers had arrest warrants in hand, but Bundy failed to show up at the agreed-upon time for their meeting.
Yeah, I guess they sent the arrest warrants down overnight or something.
Yeah. And the troopers called his house, and his wife said Richard was riding his motorcycle.
Well, the thing was, they said that they had a surveillance team on him the whole time.
At his house overnight,
and everything. Yeah, so how he slid out on his motorcycle, we don't know.
Yeah. But she said he left on his motorcycle, but she expected to be back.
said that he had run to the H&R Block office to drop off some taxes and he'd be back later.
Yeah. Now, McCann and Stockard, they waited for Bundy to arrive at their motel room or the local police to call and say that Bundy had been in custody. And as they waited, it was getting pretty dark around Wichita Falls. I think there were some storms around and even some tornado watches.
Yeah, so it was a very weird day.
Yeah.
You know, dark and
heavy downpours and different things.
Dark clouds and kind of creepy overall.
But now, like we said, Richard's wife said he left on his motorcycle, but he sped out of Wichita Falls.
Mm-hmm.
And when it began to rain, he turned around and started back toward town.
Now, he had went like 40 miles out of town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had stopped under an overpass, and he pulled McCann's and Stockard's business cards from his wallet and placed them under a rock under the overpass. And then he continued driving back.
At a high rate of speed.
Yep. And this was when he swerved in front of a large dump truck coming toward him on the other lane.
So basically, he did a Sons of Anarchy ending there. Said he was running more than 100 mile an hour, and he just kind of swerved into another lane and ran head into a dump truck.
Yeah, and the driver of the dump truck said that they tried to get off the road to avoid him. He said he just kept coming toward him.
Didn't have time.
He didn't have a chance to.
Without endangering other people.
Yeah.
You know, it's a miracle that the guy from the truck wasn't hurt.
Exactly.
That's what I was worried about.
Yeah.
That Bundy died instantly.
Mm-hmm.
So they still never knew where the little girl was buried.
No.
It's crazy.
And analysis of the forensics evidence found in the Bundy home indicated some of the hairs collected from Bundy's truck belonged to one of the victims, Wendy Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
And the shotgun shells found in his home were manufactured at the same bunch as the shells used to obliterate the faces of Lori King and Wendy Wilson. Yeah. Now, get this. In 1986, 3 years after Thomas Bundy's death and a few months after Doris Oring should have graduated from high school, Doris's skull was found in a remote section of the Eielson Air Force Base.
So they finally found her, but it took them 3 more years. Huh?
Yeah, so the Oring family was able to have a little bit of closure and put her to rest in some way. Yeah. Crazy story. So they knew who did it, but there was never any justice. Like he took had his own justice.
Yeah, and he was a pretty creepy dude. I mean, like the first lady who he abducted there, the mother of the baby, he said that he had seen her in the yard walking around barefoot and stuff, and just knew when he saw her that he was going to get her.
Yeah.
And it took him a couple of days, and said he drove up and he seen her out in the kitchen. She was looking the mail, and he pulled up and rolled the window down. And was asking her where something was, but he wasn't saying it real loud. And she's like, "Hang on, I can't hear you." When she walked to the car, he jumped out with a gun and forced her in the car.
Yeah.
And that's when he took her off and climbed on top of her and just basically choked her out, and then drug her out of the car and shot her in the head, or in the face, actually.
Crazy.
But from what everything we can think, that just didn't do it for him. That's why he changed to a shotgun to be a lot more damage.
Yeah.
And then the little girl that he actually saw her. It was like a wildlife path or something that they were driving on, but I'm not sure because I don't know the area, you know, how the roads were and this stuff. But anyway, he had seen her riding a bike.
The Doris Oring.
Yeah, so he passed her up and then pulled in front of her and kind of blocking the trail and then act like his car died. And when she pulled up to him, he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, my car died." She goes, "Well, that's okay. I'll just go around." And then he looked around and seen the brother. And she goes, "Oh, that's my brother." So that's when he decided to close the hood and leave. But 2 days later, he seen her again riding. She was coming home from...
He'd been watching her.
Yeah, coming home from swim lessons. So she was headed the other way. So he drove down past her and hid in the bushes, and that's exactly what he did then. Like they thought. He had jumped out and said he had brought a towel with him. And he grabbed her and crammed a towel in her mouth, and then grabbed the bike with the other hand, threw the bike in the ditch, and threw her in the car, and took her off and done her the same way.
Yeah.
Choked her out. And then it's just crazy. The other girls were, hitchhiking, just basically easy for him to get.
Yeah. Choke them out and shoot them in the head.
Yeah. I don't know what his deal was with, strangle them, and then he was getting off on watching the life go out and then shoot him in the face with a shotgun. I'm like, Jesus God, I just don't understand that unless it's just something, I don't know. I can't explain it, so I'm not even going to try.
I know.
It's just wild. And then to leave like he did gives nobody no clearance, no closure on nothing.
No, they just happened to find Doris's remains.
Yep.
Yeah, they thought that he would at least have told where her body was, because I mean he was willing to go back at one time to show him where the body was. But
Well, he said that, and he's probably one of them, and he thought about it, and he's like, hell, I ain't staying forever in prison, so.
yeah, he was going, either way, he was going to be in prison somewhere.
Yeah, or be, killed or whatever, so he decided to do it his own way, I guess.
Yeah. But that is the North Pole murders. Thomas Richard Bundy.
Bundy.
Yeah. Bad dude.
Bad dude, but he's gone, so.
Yeah, we don't have to pay for him. Be in prison. All right, Dale. We are going to get out of here, bud.
All right, man, let's roll.
We want everyone to be safe. Please be careful and always be aware of your surroundings.
Because the next episode could be about you.
This is the Crack House Chronicles.